Welcome to my Multiple Careers podcast. This is the fourth episode in the series Ikigai and Multiple Careers. And today I want to talk about the concept of flow. What Ikigai and flow have to do with whether or not you have a meaningful and fulfilling career. After listening to this podcast, I hope that you'll have a different perspective on your current career and job, and also know why you are happy or not happy in it, and what you need to do if you want to have a more meaningful and fulfilling career. Meaningful as in you have a personal reason for doing what you do, which is aligned with you, and fulfilling as in your work makes you content over the long term. In case you're new to this podcast, this is my Multiple Careers podcast, which for now I still publish on my YouTube channel, Multiple Careers. My goal is to help people build fulfilling and meaningful careers and have a life with less regret. In case you haven't listened to the earlier episodes yet, this podcast series is based on materials from the book Ikigai, the Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life by Hector Garcia and Frances Miralles. This is not a book review or a critique, neither is it a summary. Here I pick out specific parts of the book that are most relevant to the question of building a meaningful and fulfilling career. You might already be familiar with the concept of flow. We experience flow when we enjoy the thing that we're doing so much and are so absorbed in it that we forget about everything else that worries us. Like when you're reading a gripping novel and you're so immersed in it that you don't notice that 2 hours have passed and you even forgot to check your social media or chat. If you love karaoke, it's when you've sung your favorite songs from the year 2000 with your friends for 3 hours and you feel like you just need to add 1 more hour because you're so, in the flow. Flow was studied in much detail by the psychologist Csikszentmihalyi, who says in his book titled Flow that flow is the state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience itself is just so enjoyable that people will do it even at great cost for the sheer sake of doing it. Now, contrast that to your job, the activities that are part of your career, or your studies if you are a student. Are you experiencing flow often? Sometimes, like once a week, or perhaps never? People who experience flow frequently, even on a daily basis, will have a more fulfilling career by definition. So, what does Ikigai have to do with flow? Ikigai is the reason for being, what makes life worthwhile. It is our deepest purpose in life. Ikigai is a sort of existential fuel that drives us. For someone that might be playing music, for someone else it might be doing research, or designing houses, inventing things, or coaching people. Everyone has an Ikigai, but it might not be as easy to discover. It takes patience and dedication to uncover it. Also, honesty to acknowledge it once you've found it. Someone once commented on my YouTube video that some people just don't know what they want to do. And it seems to me that many people face this problem and just give up. While for some it's obvious what they enjoy doing most, what they find meaningful, others have no clue at all. They make the mistake of just letting it go just because it's not crystal clear yet and continue to live their miserable lives. It takes work to find your Ikigai. Some may find it at 15, at 30, or at 50. The important thing is to gradually get closer to it. Let's say your Ikigai is playing music. You've played guitar in high school and really loved it. You've experienced flow every time you played. And there's no other activity that you enjoy doing so much. But as you got older, you got a degree in finance, let's say, which got you a well-paying job, and you never looked back again. You never picked up your guitar again and forgot all about it. Your Ikigai is there, but you didn't make the effort to revisit your guitar. You go back to your job that brings you no happiness and fill that void with economic power, physical pleasure, or by numbing your senses, as the authors of Ikigai say. It's not easy for everyone to find their Ikigai, and there is no step-by-step manual that will guarantee that you find it. But at least there is a sign that can indicate when you're closer to your Ikigai, and that is when you achieve the state of flow. If you experience flow regularly when you do a certain activity, it is a good sign that you are closer to your Ikigai, or you might have even found it. If you become so immersed in doing something that you forget about everything else, it means you enjoy it and you find happiness in doing it. You might have found the thing that drives you. So when I ask myself, but how about if there are many activities during which I experience flow? I like writing, making YouTube videos. I also love acting and singing. I love making connections between things and finding new insights. And during all these activities, I kind of forget the world around me. You might also have several things during which you experience flow. When we are in flow, our mind is focused and in order. And the opposite of flow is losing focus and feeling distracted. I believe that the more an activity is aligned with us, the easier it is to reach the state of flow. There is no friction and there are no worries. There is no questioning whether or not you're supposed to be there. You just do it and enjoy the process. So it seems to me that if we do activities that are aligned with our Ikigai, then we get into the state of flow more easily, which creates fulfillment and happiness. On the other hand, by seeking and trying to create flow, we can also create meaning. So this begs the question, which comes first? Do we find our Ikigai first and then create maximum flow or maximum meaning, if you can quantify that at all? This means in the earlier example that we discover that playing the guitar is our Ikigai and then try to play guitar as often as possible, even make it our career or one of our careers, and thus achieve flow easily by nature. Or do we try to get into a state of flow in whatever we're doing and from there find our Ikigai? This would mean that in the job, in the career that you are in right now, whether you are happy or not, you try to create flow by tweaking the way that you do the activities. I believe that it's a combination of both. You have to tackle it from both ends. And here I want to stress the importance of looking at different time frames. In the short term, I think that we should try our best to make these tweaks to our environment and activities in order to achieve flow. Given our circumstances, try and just make the best of it. In relation to work, this would mean if you have to stay in your current job and career for whatever reason, let's say for 1 year or another 6 months, you might as well try to enjoy it and create episodes of flow within it. But in the medium to long term, I think it makes more sense to try and discover our Ikigai and then relish the flow that comes naturally with it. In relation to job and career, this means if you have the option in the medium to long term, say in the next 1 to 2 years, why not follow your Ikigai instead of bending over backwards to adjust your current job and career? Why cause so much strain by staying in a job or career that you hate? With this in mind, let's now move on to how to achieve flow. There are 7 conditions for achieving flow according to Owen Schaeffer of DePaul University. And I want to summarize each and then talk about what you can do in terms of option 1 and option 2. Option 1 being how you can achieve flow given that you decide to stay in your current job or career. Option 2 meaning you look outside of your current job or career and move to a job or career which is closer aligned with your Ikigai, so it will be easier to achieve flow with less strain. In this podcast, I'll cover strategy number 1 and then continue with the other strategies in the next podcast episodes. Strategy 1 is to choose a difficult task but not too difficult. If something is too difficult, we get anxious, while if something is too easy, we get bored. And the key here is too difficult and too easy. Of course, once in a while, everyone will experience either some anxiety or boredom. But if you experience extreme boredom or extreme anxiety every day in your work, then it is clearly a red flag. There's an optimal level of difficulty in work. I quote, "The ideal is to find a middle path, something aligned with our abilities, but just a bit of a stretch, so we experience it as a challenge. If our work has just the right difficulty level, we'll experience it as satisfaction, and we are in tune with our Ikigai." Option 1. Staying in your current job and career. If you are rather bored with your job because the tasks are too easy, monotonous, then try and create your own challenges. Raise the level of difficulty and voluntarily upgrade your skill, even though the job doesn't require it. If you are a salesperson in a store with little traffic, make it your challenge to make each person who enters the store leave the store with a smile. If you're doing data entry, make it your challenge to complete a certain task in 5% less time every week, and so on. Raise the difficulty to the level that it becomes less boring and more rewarding. Option 2. But if you have the option, why in the world would you stay in the job that is too easy and too boring? It will suck the life out of you after some time. Instead of trying too hard to create that flow, try and get a promotion instead. Change departments or change industry so you can find the level of challenge that you need. If you're an accountant and you find accounting boring, you can certainly do many things to make the time pass by more quickly. But if you always wanted to write a book, why not start that? If you find that writing is your Ikigai, then you will find flow in that very easily. On the other hand, a particular job can also be too difficult, so that it creates too much anxiety for you. It might have to do a bit with the level of neuroticism, but it is likely that it also has to do with the question of whether or not you're in the right pool. Even though you're a strong tiger, you'll die if you have to live in the ocean. So if you're this tiger, then move out of there quickly. There were several times during my career when my capacity was stretched a bit too much. I was working in project management in banking. On a daily basis, I was working with 10 departments or more, 50 sub-projects to coordinate, working with over 100 people from multiple layers of seniority, from CEO to office boy. I just started working and it was officially my boss's project. But because he also worked on other projects, he left this complex project largely to me, a very junior manager at that time. It was too difficult for me, and that is why I experienced a burnout not long after. At that time, I was moving very fast in my career and everyone was thinking that I was doing a very great job with these projects. I was promoted 3 times within 5 years, too fast for my own good. But at that time, what I wanted was another promotion, a bigger salary, bigger bonus, and so on. Good thing that I came to a tipping point. I knew the industry wasn't right for me and I left my job. Another time was when I produced and acted in my first 2 feature films, where I worked with 400 crew and cast members that I never worked before. I also didn't have a background in filmmaking or film producing. I enjoyed the process and I am happy I went through it, but I experienced tremendous anxiety. I just wasn't at the optimal difficulty level. Now I've taken a step back for a while. Before I make my next film, I am pacing myself and adjusting myself to the waters. I'm creating a ton of content, YouTube videos and now podcasts to get myself accustomed to the process of producing content on a small scale. When I'm doing this, I experience episodes of flow between 1 and 2 hours. And thinking of it now, I realize that I was able to achieve flow because I am working on things on a difficulty level that I can manage. It is not too easy, not at all. It is difficult and challenging, but it is something that I can handle very well. On the other hand, I had jobs I've taken in between career transitions, like working in a cafe or doing some admin work, where the tasks were so mundane that I was annoyed doing them. And in these jobs, I never lasted long. In summary, if you want a fulfilling and meaningful career, you need to make one of these two decisions. Stay put where you are, but optimize your experience by trying to create flow, adjust the level of difficulty that is right for you. Or acknowledge the fact that you cannot achieve flow, or you don't want to try and achieve flow, and change jobs and change careers to find a better fit, something closer to your Ikigai. In the next episode, I will be talking about the other strategies for achieving flow that brings you closer to your Ikigai and a fulfilling and meaningful career. If you're listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the little alarm bell so you won't miss the next episode. If you've enjoyed this podcast episode, please also like it. That would really help me to know whether or not it was useful to you. Feel free to leave your comments below, as I'd really love to hear from you. Have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you again soon.